of the late arrival of the letter just before the meeting in January. So we couldn't have the meeting in February because of the budget, but we're here today. And the one thing is that what I'd like to say is we have listened. Yes, we took a tough decision. Yes, we've listened. And the one thing that what we have done is put a compromise back on the table. And I'm absolutely delighted that the school, through negotiation, through looking at matters, have now renegotiated. And just to give you, I don't want to take up too much of people's time because, as I say, I don't know whether there are particularly entrenched views on this. The original proposed area, effectively for the reduced amount of land, equates to 36.5 reduction. If the 15-metre buffer that we're proposing, the school would benefit from 77 of the originally proposed area. If Councillor Hogg's proposal goes ahead, it would equate to benefiting from 63.5 of the originally proposed area. The difference, ladies and gentlemen, is 13.5%. The configuration allows for a running track, for a cricket square, for other things to be given, not just a football pitch. And please understand that a 125-year lease doesn't mean that buildings would go on it or houses. The fact of the matter is it would just safeguard the children. And the last thing I want to do is demonstrate another generation of school pupils to not have access to an outside play area for educational use. I've genuine sympathy and regard of both points of view. We didn't appear to have a compromise at the end of last year. Now we do. I would respectfully ask that all sides of the chamber respect that compromise and vote for that tonight. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Now, I understand that an amendment to the original proposals has been submitted and accepted by the Council's monitoring officer. And that amendment has come from Councillor Hogg. Would you like to move that amendment now?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This just to respond to Councillor Jones's that the difference between 63.5% and 77%.
Councillor Hogg, you shouldn't debate those things now. You should put your amendment. If you then want to talk about in your summing up, that's the correct time to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, apologies. The saga seems to have run and ran. I have to say, I am disappointed with the item before you tonight. I had high hopes that after the item was withdrawn from the previous full council meeting, that I would be seeing a bold solution from this administration that balanced the needs of the school and local residents. Sadly, this item merely bites away at the edges of the previous item for consideration and effectively washes its hands of the outcome, putting it firmly in the hands of officers to deal with. A kind of King Herod, Pontius Pilate scenario. Sorry, Dennis, I know you aren't keen on the analogy, but I speak as I find. And so I find myself once again bringing an amendment to this item to bring my fellow councillors a choice, but also to stimulate a debate to allow their views to be heard. This amendment seeks to clarify a position that gives the school a fair amount of space, which is sufficient for them to meet their needs, whilst recognising the wishes of the wider community of Warrington. I don't pretend that it gives either party what they are hoping for as a solution, but hopefully it is one that both parties can live with. You will hear opinions that this solution means that the unallocated land will bring the council into trouble and that there will be an unlawful move to change its status from education land to open space provision. There is no suggestion of this in the amendment. In fact, the idea is to keep this land for the future. If Ken Stimpson School expands in the future and is able to make a case for taking this land due to a change in circumstance, council would look to transfer at that time. Equally, there is a nearby primary school, William Law, which would may also have the need for space in the future with expansion. This gives options for the future and doesn't close them down. In the meantime, the space can be enjoyed unfettered by local residents, as they have done since the land was transferred to the county council and subsequently to the city council. Now, just a quick plea to my fellow councillors. Warrington may not be your ward, but please think what you would be doing if it was your ward. As councillors, we're here to do right by the communities we serve. We must it might be the easiest thing to transfer the land to the school, but it ignores the local community's wishes. This amendment seeks to present a compromise that gives the best outcome for both the school and the community. So let this amendment go through, please. I'd also like to just pay tribute to every single one of the residents that wrote in on this matter and gave their views. It has swayed me in terms of the fact that this fight needs to be fought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Councillor Sarah Hillier, I understand you're seconding this amendment. Do you want to speak now or reserve your right to speak?
I'll speak now, if that's okay, please.
That's fine, thank you.
I think by now council members have a feeling for what a divisive issue the fencing of Wellington Fields has been in Wellington. It is important, I think, that we acknowledge the passion and commitment on both sides of this debate. The school have done their best to secure what they believe to be the best outcome for their pupils, to maximise the land available for a variety of PE activities and to give a broad range of sporting opportunities to pupils. Save Wellington Fields and the community have tenaciously researched and campaigned to preserve what they view as an irreplaceable and invaluable public space. The energy and hard work put into this issue shows how important this decision is to all parties. I think the amendment put before us today gives us the best chance to achieve something approaching the needs of both sides. It is certainly not what either side want, but there is no solution to this that will suit all. The approach suggested by the former Secretary of State, Prime Minister, our former MP and our current MP, and that restated in the most recent DFE letter, is that the land is solely educational land. However, as it is still council-owned land, it is up to the council how much is fenced off, as long as all of the land remains designated educational land. The erecting of a fence would not de facto stop the land outside the fenced area being educational land. It would be the 4C's map decision whether to use the land outside the fenced area. If they take the view, as they have stated, that they won't due to safeguarding concerns, that is their decision. It would then, over time, be that decision that would change the land use designation, not our decision to fence the area C1. Save Wellington Fields have legal opinion which supports their view that the land use is joint use. This amendment allows us a solution without getting bogged down in the land use argument. I think Area C1 allows us as a council to say we have given due consideration to the needs of a 4C's MAT and its pupils. We have been reasonable and fenced approximately 66% of the land. This, along with the freestanding outdoor sports area, gives an extensive area for a broad range of sports and secure outdoor space. This will allow the school to deliver PE lessons in a way they feel satisfies their safeguarding duties. It also preserves community access to a large area of open space for wider community use. I suspect neither the Academy Trust nor Save Wellington Fields will be completely satisfied with this, but that is what compromise is. This approach is supported by the ward councillors and Wellington Neighbourhood Council, as it avoids fragmentation of the remaining land and provides a straight fence running the entire length, giving a more attractive prospect. This is a reasonable, negotiated compromise. Thank you.
Ooh, bang on time. Well done. Thank you, Councillor Hillier. Councillor Hiller's not here, is he? that's confusion tonight. So, folks, we've heard that amendment. However, I understand that the legal officer now wishes to comment on the amended motion and give some advice to council before we proceed to any debate. Neil.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So, members, I just want to deal with two things. Firstly, the council's constitutional position, and secondly, the risks I see. And the council's constitution states that if the monitoring officer considers a motion is illegal, improper, defamatory, frivolous, or offensive, they'll inform the mayor who will decide whether or not to reject the motion. And having carefully considered matters on balance, I did not consider that this threshold had been met, and accordingly, the proposed amendment has been accepted, so it can be debated. That said, I just want to make it really clear that I remain of the view that there is a significant risk of a successful legal challenge if this amendment is agreed, because the council will be unilaterally deciding to offer at most Area C1 in the knowledge that that offer area is smaller than the Academy Trust have indicated they will agree. And so for the reasons set out in the report, I consider that would probably breach Section 77 of the School Standards and Framework Act 1998, as the remaining land would not then be used for educational purposes and to all extents and purposes would be retained for public recreational use. I realise that that is an unpopular piece of advice, but that remains my advice. I would also just remind members that Section 5 of the 1989 Local Government and Housing Act obliges a monitoring officer to prepare a report if the monitoring officer considers a decision has given rise to or is likely to give rise to the contravention of an enactment. And in my view, deciding to proceed on that basis of the proposed amendment is likely to breach Section 77(3) of the School Standards and Framework Act. And therefore, if the motion is, the amendment is proceeded with, we're going to have to give consideration to issuing a report under Section 5. I would need to consult with the head of the paid service and the chief finance officer before doing so. But I just want to make councillors aware of that prospect as well. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Neil. So members, you're informed as to the implications of this amendment or possible implications. However, for transparency and because of its public interest, and there are many people here tonight that are witness to that public interest or testament to it, it's right and proper that we debate this matter fully. So I will open the floor to questions from members. Councillor Farouk first, and we'll note you down as you raise your hands. I think I'm going too quick for Neil. So Councillor Farouk, Councillor Elsey, Councillor Fox, Sorry, questions, debate, same thing. So we've now opened it for debate, which can be questions, it can be comments, it can be whatever you want it to be. So we've got as far as Judy and John Fox, and then we'll get some more in a second. Okay, Nicola was next. So Farouk, you are first. Did you get more? Sorry.
Thank
you. Okay, we're up to Councillor Day at the moment, okay? So we'll do those for now. So you have 3 minutes in which to make your points or ask questions. Councillor Farouk.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. First of all, can I pay tribute to Councillor Walsh? I had privilege of working with her and I wish her well and a speedy recovery from her health. Mr. Deputy Mayor, coming back to this issue, it's often been argued over the last many years, 3 football pitches, 4 football pitches, 6 football pitches, but the whole issue has been treated like a football. It's been kicked around from one goal to another without really finding a solution. So we all agree that this issue has gone on for too long. And what we need to talk about is what factors contributed to this. First of all, nobody owned this issue. Nobody grabbed hold of the clipboard and ran around and got everybody's buy-in. Secondly, the political will. Warrington councillors, my colleagues John, Judy, and more recently Sarah, have championed the cause of the local residents and safeguarding of the children and have always pushed for a compromise. However, the issue has been shelved for too long, on and off. Mr. Deputy Mayor, we all want to live in a prosperous and harmonious communities. The local residents and a well-functioning school make up that harmonious community. To keep both parties happy, a compromise is the only answer, which will ensure the safeguarding of our children and their well-being by participating in sports activities. The scrutiny asked us today to debate this issue in the council, and I urge all the colleagues to have that robust debate today. No proposed recommendation is a silly recommendation, but Mr. Deputy Mayor, we have an executive system and decision-making process, so the decision also lies with the administration. And the final thing I wanted to talk about was the council's reputation. The council's reputation here is at stake and in twofold. One, financially. So there could be legal challenges from either side, whether from the residents, from the academy. So the members need to bear in mind. And then second, and most importantly, the council reputation is at stake in the reputation of the council of representing the best interests of the residents. And the secondly, and most importantly, protecting the vulnerable, such as safeguarding of children. So what I urge all the members is to keep all those points bear in mind and then vote for these recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk. Councillor Elsey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and I echo Councillor Farouk's thoughts on Councillor Irene Walsh. I was a fellow ward councillor with her for many years, and she was an exceptionally diligent councillor, so I wish her all the best for the future. I've listened to both sides of the arguments, and I've listened to what the legal officer has just said to us. He's right in that it is educational land. However, there's no definition of education. Education doesn't only happen in schools. So if that land is used by, for argument's sake, the Wildlife Trust to educate people in terms of ecological diversity, then that's education. So hiding behind it's educational land and then suggesting that educational land can only be used by a school is nonsense. I want the school to succeed, and I want the school to have the facilities that they want. However, there are hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people in Werrington who want to use this land as well, and their opinion is equally important, if arguably more important than the want for as much land as possible to be fenced off for school facilities. The bottom line is that we've been told categorically that by the Secretary of State and the Department of Education that this is a council decision. And if it's a council decision and that's their mantra, then one would argue that the cards is more or less stacked in our favour. And the threat of we may be up for legal challenge on this, well, let's get real. The reality is that the council can be challenged legally on virtually every decision they make, if somebody's prepared to push it and prepared to pay in order to do so. So this doesn't necessarily carry any more threat than any other decision. So for these reasons, I will be supporting Councillor Hogg's amendment. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Now, Councillor Judy Cox. We'll go ladies first.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As one of the Werrington Ward councillors, I've always been for compromise of an area for football pitches, especially after the public consultation back in 2021. And the fact that the school stated then this would be enough for them to meet the school curriculum needs, also with the area it already has within the school grounds. Any safeguarding concerns could be met in that fenced off area. So why do they now require even more land when they already have around enough to meet their needs? This whole subject was discussed at Prime Minister's question time. The Prime Minister at that time saying, last year the Education Secretary rightly rejected Peterborough City Council's application to change the playing fields land at Ken Stimpson Community School from educational land to public open space. That decision ensured that children will have access to the open space they deserve. But I am told by the department that the council can provide for some of the land to be fenced and they would be comfortable with that, provided that the overall site remains educational land. The department is ready to ensure that happens. My main concern is that back in 2021, when the consultation process took place, it directly involved Ken Stimpson School, the Four Seas Academy Trust, senior councillor officers, the Director of Children's Services, cabinet members, residents and the ward councillors. It was then agreed by all that a fenced-off area of 4 football pitches would be all that was required to meet the need of all. Now, all of a sudden, without any increase of student population or without the plans to increase the size of pupil population, they want what would be the equivalent to 6 football pitches. How can this possibly now be justified? We should fence the original amount of land required at the public consultation and leave the rest for public use, which is viable and sensible compromise. Officer reports suggest that Four Seas might accept a compromise of fencing the central part of the field, leaving 10 to 15 metres strip on 3 sides. This is no compromise, as it fences the community out of well over 85% of the field and is only a marginal change from the whole of Area C. We know already that any fence needs to be to avoid damaging tree roots, which means it could not anyway be closer than 10 metres to the tree belt. With this said, I will be supporting the amendment, and I ask all councillors to support this, which is also supporting the community of Warrington in getting the outcome they are looking to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I could spend a considerable amount of time going backward into the history of this saga. There have been years and years of endless back and forths and broken promises. Judy, Sarah and I are the elected representatives for Warrington, and we are telling you that the people of Warrington have and are completely compromising. They are not asking to keep everything open and untouched. Their desired outcome is for the equivalent of 4 football pitches to be fenced off and the remaining space to be left as public open space. The original consultation with the public was to take roughly 66% of the field from public use, and now you want to take even more. With this in mind, this is my position. I will stand and sit here all day and all night long to fight for what the people of Warrington want. I beg you, listen to the people of Warrington. Don't vote for or support anything less than what the people of Warrington rightly want and need. Like so many others, I have multiple questions, including: why was the legal advice received by the council on this matter before the consultation process took place not been shared with the public? Just look at every step of this process. The public interest has been unwavering. Why did we even bother with a public consultation in the first place if we're now ignoring the result, especially as this was fully agreed on by all parties? Why did we continue with the academisation of the school when this matter was not fully resolved? It has made matters considerably harder. Who made this decision and why? Why also were the ward councillors for Warrington not part of the consultation progress with the Four Seas and officers? They went totally against the result of the public consultation. Why were we kept in the dark? Because that's fact. The whole sorry episode is an affront to any semblance of democratic process and a very poor example of public engagement. The public deserve better, and the people of Warrington deserve better than this. Do not compound a god-awful process with the worst possible outcome. For all my questions and frustrations of the whole lengthy process, the only thing now that matters is what the people of Warrington want. 4 fields are fenced and the remaining area is left as open public space. This is the only outcome that should be accepted by this council.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Passionate as ever, and quite rightly so. Councillor Nicola Day.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The Green Party believes in ensuring communities have access to free open green spaces. In fact, our recent manifesto says we would increase the access rather than decrease it. We understand the benefits that green open space brings to communities for leisure, recreation and relaxation. However, as a teacher, I do understand the needs of the school to safeguard pupils. We as Greens are disappointed that the Academy Trust has been unable to make a compromise with local residents on this issue, when we know compromise solutions have been discussed and put on the table. The problem here appears to lie in the fact that a community school has turned into an academy. Greens are opposed to academization, but that is a debate for another time. However, this move to change a community-based school with shared facilities with the local community into a school which wants to fence off a dual-use land for their own use, albeit with the offer that the community can hire the land outside of school hours, obviously pay to hire the land. As is stated, there is no requirement that school playing fields must be fenced. They could be, is the guidance, not that they must be. I teach at a school that is successful both academically and in its sporting achievements. We have no school fields and no PE facilities. We utilise other schools' facilities. I went to Bushfield Community School, a school that shared facilities with the local community. That's now Ormiston Bushfield Academy. The fields there are not fenced off and the campus is open plan. There is no requirement from Ofsted to fence off school playing fields. It is vitally important to listen to the voices of residents who live near the school and utilise those spaces. So often residents' voices are not listened to. It's also very important to listen to the ward councillors. Residents would ideally like the whole field left unfenced. However, they have been willing to compromise. These fields were originally pledged to the local community and the school by the Development Corporation when they handed those to PCC in the 1980s and were designated as dual use. Once the land is enclosed, it will never be accessible to the community again unless they pay for it. Many residents use the space for dog walking, exercise and leisure, with one resident saying, "The sight of the tree-lined walks glistening in the early morning mists or late evening sunsets lifts the spirits." Both the physical and mental health benefits will disappear if this land is enclosed. John Clare, our famous local poet, wrote about the effects of the 1809 enclosures upon Helpston, not far from the Warrington Fields. He understood our need for connection to land, place and landscape. I know quite a lot about him because I was the education officer at John Clare Cottage for 4 years. He wrote, "Fence now meets fence in owner's little bounds, of field and meadows large as garden grounds.
Councillor Davies.
In little parcels, little minds please, with men and flocks imprisoned ill at ease." Bit of literature there for you. As group leader, Green Group leader, voice for residents, as a teacher, we urge the school to reach a compromise. We want to congratulate the work of all the Warrington Field campaigners. We are listening to you and we will be supporting the amendment.
Councillor Skipster. I have you down on my list here. Hey, if you don't need to speak if you don't want to.
That's fine. I echo my colleague next door and everything she said, but I would also want to add that as councillors, we are elected first and foremost to listen and represent the views of our residents. In this case, residents have spent many years diligently researching the issue and campaigning for their community space. In my view, land should be used by both schools and the local community. Both are of equal importance. Warrington Fields have already compromised greatly on their original claims, which shows their strong desire for compromise. Because of this, I think we should honour their commitment to their cause. The school already have a reasonable amount of space for outdoor sports needs, so it seems the only fair way to allow both parties to have a certain amount of what they both want and need. The time it has taken to get here does not mean we should make a quick decision tonight to get this issue out of the way. It needs to be the correct and fair decision, even if it takes a bit longer to get there. We have an amendment before us which has been allowed on the table by the legal officer, in which case this is a valid choice for us, and we are told it is the council's decision, and we are the council. For these reasons, I will be supporting Councillor Hogg's amendment tonight.
Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I wasn't actually going to originally not speak on this item, but I've read all the papers and this amendment. my position is that it is, the school's discretion to decide how it safely can deliver a curriculum. And, for the sake of 13%, and to open us for, legal challenge is not something that I'm quite comfortable with. So I will not be supporting this amendment.
So you said you would, or you wouldn't, sorry?
I will not be
Okay,
supporting
right,
this.
sorry. Okay, just for some clarity, I think a point was mentioned there about it's a council decision. I've just double checked that. The ultimate decision still remains an executive decision of cabinet. Okay? So in effect, whatever is decided is a recommendation. So be clear, because somebody just said it was a council decision. It is still an executive decision of cabinet. Okay. Right. I have Councillor Ormston. Sorry, Councillor Harper, did you have your hand up? Sorry, you want to ask a question? You mean?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I have
Oh,
a point.
a point
I
of
need
order.
some clarification.
Sorry.
Is that the point? Can I ask the question?
Well, you asked what your point of clarification is,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you whether we can
Yeah,
answer
well,
it.
I just wanted to make sure you'd accept it. The fact is the fact we've had two people that have declared an interest
Yeah.
in this room.
Yeah.
And at the end of this debate, we are looking at a vote not, to push it to somebody else to make the final decision. I understand that. You've just made that clear. Public perception is everything. I think everybody knows that, and that's one of my big things in life. If we've had a declaration of interest, surely
The
with
legal
respect,
officer will rule
they
on that.
cannot vote on this issue.
It depends whether, I guess, they've got conflicted or pecuniary interest or something.
Yes, thank you. The point's been raised and it being raised on the floor. I've thought about it. I've consulted with colleagues. We think that that's acceptable in that for people to continue to participate. A number of people in this debate have clearly and forcefully expressed views on the matter, but I don't think people have a pecuniary interest that would mean that they would need to withdraw from voting, nor do I think there's any evidence of predetermination.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Can I just go on record and say that I think that's the wrong decision?
Sorry, it's what?
The wrong decision.
Oh,
I respect the legal officer.
I'm sure they'll note it. Oof, 1 second, Chris, just 1 second. I'm just trying to make sure we're up to date. So, was there anybody we missed during this? I've got Ormston and Zamir. Just 1 second, Christian, 1 second, 1 second. 1 second, Evan. So I'm just trying to clarify, I didn't miss anybody in that little melee of conversation. Councillor Alison Jones, so put her down on the list to speak. Or was it, sorry, who? And Councillor Daisy Blakemore Creed. Right. Christian, have you got a point of order in which, what is it?
Well, it's a point of clarification, really. You've just said that this is going back to cabinet. And I just wondered why the papers don't suggest that in any shape or form. It doesn't say anything about a council recommending to cabinet. It says council are recommended to agree that. So that would suggest that it is council that is making this decision. Is it that these papers have been drawn up incorrectly?
I don't want to speak for the officers or the legal team, but it's a point I agree with, which is why I've just clarified it. It doesn't matter what is agreed here. It remains an executive decision. Okay, and I agree it could have been clearer in the papers, but that's my, just 1 second. So I hope that's clear. If you want to ask anything else, I think you'd have to ask the legal officer, but I just checked that point with him before I made that statement. 1 second. I have Councillor Skipstead. Put the microphone on, please.
I was checking that point with Democratic Services and I was told it was a decision that we make tonight as full council.
That's not what's in the papers.
Well,
What is
it
in
is.
the papers says it
is.
delegates its officers to negotiate, does it not? But
No,
yes, it does. No, but
No.
the point being, and I agree with you, it still remains an executive function to make the decision to agree whatever is agreed or negotiated. 1 second. Right, I hope so. I've got a couple of people. Councillor Bond is next. What's your point, Councillor Bond?
Yes, my point is, if this is an executive decision, then why are we here tonight discussing this? Why are these residents Why are these residents here tonight as well?
By the way, that is not a
Please.
point, that is not a point of order.
Okay, it's a question.
Well, you're not allowed, well, wait, put your hand up and you'll go on the list. You can't just right, okay. If you recall what I said at the outset of this meeting, it is right and proper that the council debate fully in the public view all of these issues, both what is in the paper, what is in the amendment, and anything else that comes out of tonight's meeting. So that ultimately, whatever is decided by the executive, because it's an executive function, they are fully briefed on what members have said, fully briefed, because the scrutiny recommendation was to bring this to council for a debate. That is what we are doing. But I can't change the constitution or the rules. Now, I would agree with Councillor Hogg. It's probably a little bit lacking in its description. I don't think that's deliberate, but anybody who knows, this is where you need Nick Sanford. Unfortunately, you can't speak. So I want to move on with the debate, but I will take one more point from Councillor Dennis Jones. What is your point, Councillor Jones?
My understanding when at cabinet is that we allowed the matter to go to be debated and decided by full council. And I thought I'm sorry, that was my understanding.
Unfortunately, Councillor Jones, scrutiny can only refer the matter to council for debate. That's what has happened. It doesn't absolve the executive of taking the decision or the responsibility. Councillor Fox, have you got a point of order?
Yes, I have. That's not what was said. If you look back on this recorded, just look at it and listen to it. That's not what was said. The decision was going to be made tonight here.
Well, unfortunately, that decision still has to be verified by cabinet, because anyway, folks, look, I'm going to move on with the debate. If anybody has any legal questions, the legal officer, and he's not contradicted what I've said, because I did ask him before making that statement for clarity, because I think somebody asked the question. Well, if you bear with me, Councillor Elsey, I think the legal officer is going to just step in for a moment. That might answer your question. I don't know. I'm happy to come back to you if not, yeah?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And, as one of the joint authors of the report, apologies for any confusion in relation to this. I think it's relevant just to work our way through. This matter went to cabinet, was called in. The recommendation of the joint scrutiny committee was that the matter should be referred to cabinet, to council for debate. The recommendation in the report invites council to agree to a position with authority being delegated for the finalisation. The amendment remains that ultimately, as I think I said in group leaders the other night, this is an executive decision that will need to be taken through. But council are being asked to steer, to agree the position as set out in the paper.
So please don't shoot the messenger. I'm only repeating what I'm told. Okay, Councillor Elsey, point of order.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. That didn't answer my point. My point is that an executive decision doesn't have to be made in an executive meeting. It has to be made by the executive. If the leader of the council sitting here with his executive and they are deferring the decision to full council, then that is an executive decision. The executive decision has been made that the full council should be making this decision. That is their executive decision.
We're going around in circles slightly. I don't disagree with your sentiment, by the way, personally speaking. If Councillor Jones and the executive at some point during the debate or wrapping up want to make that statement, then they can do. Or ordinarily they're done in cabinet meetings. Councillor Cole, I'm trying to move on with the debate. So unless it's something new. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Ormston, we're back on track.
Well, I think my question's changed a few times. I guess I'll try and keep it simple and maybe it'll save a bit of time. I appreciate it hasn't had an awful lot of thinking time, but is the leader of the council happy to confirm that whatever's recommended tonight, the cabinet will go with, just to save us all some time?
Well, he can't answer that directly right now, but I'm sure
Okay.
he'll take that question on board. Is that your point? Is that your question? Sorry. Okay. Fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Zamir.
Through you, Chair. I'm in a unique position. I know I have a couple of neighbours here that live near me, but my perspective of it is that I do have children that go to the school as well. And my understanding is when it's quite patronizing when I find someone actually trying to talk about safeguarding, but safeguarding my own children. I completely understand where the residents are coming from. I am a user of the field. But I also look upon the safeguarding perspective as well. So just to keep it short, I will be going with the amendment for the simple reason that it's a fair amount of land to give to the school, and the rest of it should remain within public use and have, well, free access to it instead of paying to use the land that was originally dual use anyway. Thank you.
Daisy Blakemore Creedon, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a comment about this from a completely different perspective. A third of children in our city live in poverty, making paid sports activities unaffordable for many families. Ken Stimpson has a unique opportunity to support 1,094 students and even hundreds more through the community use agreement. The original fence area, which is 63,304 square meters. The 15-meter buffer amendment, which is a 23% reduction, which is only the loss of one full-size football pitch. Whereas Christian Hogg amendment, which is 36.5% reduction, which is the loss of one rugby pitch, two full-size football pitches, two junior pitches, and the potential impact on the athletic track. Compromises already significantly impact the school's ability to offer sports. Taking the school's compromise will provide a safe, structured sports opportunities for all children, not just those who can afford them. This is an investment in children's health, confidence, and future. Let's take action to secure green space for young people and their development. Thank you.
Councillor Fox, John Fox, you have a point of order?
Yes, I have a point of explanation, actually. If you look at the original consultation map, and I've got a map on the screen, it is clearly 4 fields. Clearly. That's what went to public consultation. That's what the public wanted. This is no more. The amendment is exactly the same as that consultation. Might be a little bit, but very little.
I've indulged you there, Councillor Fox,
Yeah,
but my
you know
colleague
that-
here on the left is saying it's not a, you can only speak once. Sorry, Councillor Ormson. He's telling me it's not a point of order, but you made the point. Now, I think we have Councillor Imtiaz Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to say, like, I've been involved to a small extent in this from a number of years ago when I first was a councillor, maybe 3-4 years ago, and I came across this. And my first view was this is looking a little bit like deja vu. And I'm glad Councillor, my namesake Councillor Zamir Ali said what he said, because he'll be aware more than most, as will North Ward councillors, about the land that was taken from Borges Boulevard as part of the academy that runs Gladstone Park Community Centre. Now, the residents in Borges Boulevard and surrounding areas were told that this was a massive coup for the local community. We want to get lots of funding, we want to get a 3G surface, it's going to be fantastic and the kids will really benefit. But actually, all that's happened is the green space that was open and available to the public 24/7 without any booking, without any need to climb any fences or sneak through or have to pay to access green space. Space was always available for the local community. Borges Boulevard is a high deprivation area, And what's essentially happened there is a land grab by a private organization taking off green space from the local community in order to line its own pockets. What I see here at Kent Stimson is exactly the same thing on a much larger scale. Now, I don't necessarily like the amendment. I don't. I feel like we should be voting completely against this and let any legal challenges come. I still question the validity of the reports that claim that there is a genuine safeguarding concern. I mean, if we list the number of incidents that have occurred on that green space over a number of years, it's either negligible or zero. And to use that as an argument to fence off such a massive part of green space, I don't think holds water. But in the interest of compromise, and given that the supporters of Wellington Fields have agreed to the compromise, I absolutely wholeheartedly support the amendment to the recommendation, and I'm absolutely against the recommendation. Thank you.
That slightly confused me, but Councillor Neil Boyce.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to come back on Councillor Blakemore Creedon's point. Bushfield Academy offer exactly the same, and this is a more deprived area, and their fields aren't fenced in at all. Thank you.
Councillor Antunes. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You opened the debate to legal questions, and I have three here to put to the executive. Now, at the moment, my understanding is the public have accessed this field for more than 20 years. I have seen no evidence of what's called a public path order issued by the council to withdraw that public right of way. Under the definitive map notification order, or DMMO, the public can challenge the council to retain that as a public right of way. Now, whether the right to use that causes nuisance or not is irrelevant. So, looking at the current position, as far as I can see, the public have right of way over that, and the compromise that's being tabled tonight is legitimate. If the executive are making this decision and not the full council, will the executive inform their professional indemnity insurers to cover the cost of any legal challenge, so that the residents of Peterborough do not cover that cost? Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Alison Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As we all know, the debate over Warrington Fields has been going on for many years. The issue in this modified motion by Councillor Hogg changes the amount of land to the Academy without any discussion with them. The guidance we have received states it's for educational use. It is to allow the Academy to have the outside facilities for the students to have a playing field for a range of sporting activities they currently do not have. An area which will be fenced off to ensure the safeguarding of all students, in that we know it would otherwise be an open area and not suitable for such activities. Throughout this process, we as an administration have complied with all that has been asked of us. We've made a cabinet decision, gone through a call-in process and referred it to full council, which is why we're here now. We have listened to residents and renegotiated with the Academy. This modified motion from Councillor Hogg is now for us to debate, which does not take into account any renegotiated area C, which we have been in with the Academy and which they've agreed to, and that's shown in the supplementary pack on page 11. I would ask you to remember the benefits of this land is not only for the students of Kent Stimson, but the wider young people of our city. There will be a community use agreement, which the Academy are supportive of, as they recognise the benefits it brings. It will allow it to be used outside school hours and school holidays for a wide variety of sports by clubs and groups. With the community use agreement and the Academy having the land, it will ensure that this open space allows for our youth to enjoy the sporting facilities. It will benefit the health and mental well-being of our young people in the city. These are significant benefits we must consider and ensure we vote against this modified motion, as it will not see all of Area C put to the use which it should, whilst never forgetting the land is allocated for educational use. Have you been to Warrington Fields? I trust you have, and if so, you will know just how large the area is. Giving all of the renegotiated Area C to the Academy for educational land will still ensure there is a very large area to use by local residents. In the Department of Education letter, 22nd of January 2025, it states, when a school converts to academy status, it is usual practice for all of the land designated as educational use to be made available to the school. However, it is ultimately for the council to agree with the Academy Trust how much of the land is ultimately leased. We have spoken to the Academy and renegotiated how much of the land the Academy will agree to. This is shown on page 11, and it's the one regarding the reduction of the meters to the full area C. Therefore, I would urge you to vote against this amended motion. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Now, I understand, Councillor John Howard, you wish to speak.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion from Councillor Hogg under section 21.7AI of the Constitution. I would like that this decision is referred to the Cabinet for the decision. At the call-in meeting on the 2nd of August, recommendations were made for Cabinet refer this item to full council to get views of members, allowing time for sufficient public consultation and for council to then make two recommendations back to Cabinet. The first, surrounding the amount of land to be included in the lease to Ken Simpson Academy, and the second to be regarding the amount of open space, if any, that the council will fence off from the public access, along with the specific requirements of the fence for safeguarding purposes. We have now gained the views of members and consulted with the public as recommended at the call-in meeting. I am mindful, however, that this remains an executive decision, and I would therefore like to propose that this is taken back to the Cabinet for the final decision, who I'm sure will take on board everything that has been discussed in making their decision. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder for that motion, Councillor Howard? Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm happy to second that proposal and reserve my right to speak at this stage. Thank you.
Okay, so before we move on to debate that amendment, Councillor Hogg, do you have a point of order?
Well, the point of order is, and I hope I'm not the only one that's confused by this. A minute ago, you just told us that it was a matter for, it was going to go back to Cabinet anyway. And now we have an amendment to the motion to say that it should go back to Cabinet. I feel that we're.
I think there's a slight difference. Do you want me to explain what the difference is?
Yeah, that would be great.
I think the
clarity.
I think the difference is, from what I've just heard, is that the original motion was to task officers to negotiate with the school and come up with, we'll call it a deal, and then for Cabinet to approve. What I think the difference is here is that I just heard Councillor Howard say that everything that's in the papers, e.g. the original motion, plus your motion, would be relayed to Cabinet, not officers. So, for example, Christian, your proposal could be the one that is put forward by Cabinet to the school, or the original motion, but it just actually cuts out the middle bit and makes it clear who's making the decision. That's my understanding.
Can we have a legal?
You can in a second, but I just want Councillor Jones to make his point.
Yeah, both the substantive motion and the amendment both delegate authority to the executive director. And that is what we're happy to do, if that's the will, because both motions, the amendment from Councillor Hogg actually said, he also says delegate the authority. So we're not taking that away from the officers. That was never our intention.
The point being, I think the point's already been made. It still comes back to you and the Cabinet to make the decision.
It may come back to us, Mr. Deputy Mayor, but I'm now slightly confused, because both the substantive and the amendment both delegate authority to the executive director. And that's the point I'm going to make when I speak in a few moments.
I think, just bear with me a second. So, members, I'm going to suggest a 10-minute comfort break while officers put some cold towels on the head, quote unquote. Are we all agreed with that, members? That's fine. Fine. Thank you very much. We'll adjourn. Please be seated, everybody. And apologies to the members of the public as well. That was a long 10 minutes, but I think we're on daylight saving times at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on. So and apologies to members as well, just a little bit longer. I think we find ourselves in uncharted waters on many respects because of some confusion, and as I said, I agree with Councillor Hogg as about whose responsibility it is. And what I've said stands. However, officers have been trying to find a solution that remains within the Constitution and is legal, but also would be, if subject to challenge, would be robust. So let's just pick up where we left off. And we're still in the middle of debate, but I would like some, because we had a motion, an amendment proposed and seconded. But before we move on, I think Neil wants to clarify some things as to where we are, and then we'll determine where we go next. Hope that makes sense. Neil.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you to members for your patience whilst we worked our way through the Constitution. I think we may have a way through. I mean, the intention of the report was to give effect to the recommendations of the Joint Scrutiny Committee. And that recommendation was to bring this matter forward to Council to get Council's views and set the framework for agreeing the lease with the Academy Trust. And the amendment proposed by Councillor Hogg, which we're currently debating, seeks to change the parameters of the proposed way forward, but remains within that framework. Now, I remain of the view this is an executive decision. And therefore, ordinarily, one would expect the final decision to be overseen by the executive. I'd just say, however, having had the opportunity to go away and study the Constitution, the way forward, I think, may be permissible is that under Article 4, which sets out the functions of full council, paragraph O allows functions set out in Part 3 of the Constitution to be carried out by the council if council decides it should be carried out by it rather than the executive. And so on that basis, if that is council's wish on this occasion, I would just like to qualify that, in relation to this specific decision, not council reserving to itself in perpetuity the decision-making in relation to the agreeing of leases or disposal of the land. So, making it really clear that this is about this specific decision. If that is council's wish on this occasion, then I think Article 4 seems to offer the route to achieving that if members are minded to want to do that. And subject to that, I reiterate the advice I gave earlier in relation to other aspects of the report, but I think on this particular way, that may be the way forward.
Oh, 1 second, Dennis. Somebody beat it. Is it a point of interest or information? I've got Councillor Harper first on a point of order.
Mr. Mayor, I thank the legal officer for his advice, and I propose we do exactly that.
Just 1 second, Councillor Harper. We will follow process. Is it a similar point?
It certainly is, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The fact of the matter is that we agree. I would like us to make a decision tonight, and and the executive decision we're making is to go with Article 4. Whatever the decision is made here tonight, all we've done is pointed out the risk of a legal challenge, the costs involved, and obviously the fact that has gone round and round. And we were hoping that the 13.5% wouldn't be a deal breaker. All I'm asking, please, is that whatever the decision is from the council tonight, I'm a Democrat. This is a democratic chamber. And as an executive, we will abide by that decision.
Right. I'm trying to now do everything in order. By the way, this job is available for anybody that wants to come and take it. So, in light of the new information, Councillor Howard, do you wish to reconsider consider withdrawing your motion?
Deputy Mayor, happy to do that.
Fine. So we've gone back a step. Okay. So we're now on as we were before, but I should point out to you. So we are clear, as I was talking about earlier, that the decision was to go back to the executive. No matter what the papers say, that's what it is. And I'll reiterate the legal officer's warnings about the implications of that. And also, if council were minded to, and we'll get to it in a minute, vote on Councillor Hogg's motion in favour, it does not mean to say it can be implemented. Because if the school don't agree it, then it can't be achieved. There is two parties to every negotiation, but that is all that is being suggested, although Councillor Hogg's motion changes the parameters of what's agreed in the original motion. Okay, so firstly, we're going to take a vote. No, we'll come back. We'll come back to the debate, I think, Neil, because I'll just finish this first, then I'll come to you. And a simple show of hands, or if you're against the proposal of council making the decision, that's the easiest way to do it, I think, which is what Councillor Jones has just indicated, Councillor Harper has indicated, and what the legal officers are outlined. If you are against council making a decision, as opposed to the executive, please raise your hand. Therefore, I'll take that as agreed. Okay. See, uncharted water. So we are now in the middle of debate, but we know what the outcome of the debate will be. So, you don't have any more people on the list for debate. So is it? Oh, sorry, Councillor Ali. Sorry, apologies.
Okay, just a question to be crystal clear. You said if we did vote on the amendment as proposed by Councillor Hogg, it wouldn't automatically happen because the school would still need to agree it. Does that not apply equally to the recommendation that's proposed by Councillor Jones? Even if we were to agree to that, the school would still have to agree it.
Yes is well.
Luckily, it went that way.
It depends how candid you want me to be. Yes is the answer. The same would apply, but I understand that some negotiation has already taken place, and what is in the original paper has been agreed by the school. Okay, that's my understanding. Whereas what is in the amendment has not been agreed by the school. Point of order from Councillor Elsey. And if you, sorry, Councillor, and if there's any more debate, can you please tell us now, before I come back? Councillor Allen, right? Councillor Elsey first.
So, point of order, what you're basically saying, Mr. Deputy Mayor, is that if the school don't like it, they can challenge no matter what the decision is.
They can say no.
So our decision is irrelevant, an irrelevance, because if they don't like it, which they're not going to, if Councillor Hogg's motion is carried, that we're not going to implement it because they've got the right to appeal. Well, so have the people of Werrington got the right to appeal if it goes the other way.
It's not a point of order, Councillor Elsey, but it's not a question of a right to appeal. They have a right not to agree to a deal they're unhappy with. It's as simple as that. They won't appeal anything. Hang on a sec. Councillor Skipstead. Point of order, don't be asking. If you want to put your hand up, go on. Go on.
So, I'm trying to...
Under what point of order are you asking?
For clarification,
Yes,
because
go
I understood from the letter that we were told about last time that it is a council decision.
The legal officer will advise.
So, just to be really clear, what the letter from the Department of Education said that came in shortly before the last council meeting on this, it said ultimately it is for the council and the school to agree. And I think the point the Deputy Mayor is making is that it takes two parties to agree. That is the risk. Now that risk exists, to pick up the previous point of order, on both the discussions in relation to one are more advanced than the other. But that is the point that is being made, that you couldn't force someone to sign a lease they were not prepared to sign. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, point of order. I'm getting to you, Steve.
The point of order, Mr. Deputy Mayor, is the fact that as an administration, it is our job to not put the council at risk of a judicial review. We are likely to be subject to a judicial review, whether it's from the school or from the Save Warrington Fields. This is what we've been told. The reality here is that, and as you said yourself,
I don't wish to intrude or interrupt. It's not a point of order.
No. As soon as I can speak, let me speak, please.
Will
because
do.
There are questions.
Please
being asked
remember
I can
that we have
answer.
standing orders, and when you raise your pink card, it is for no, I know it's for a standing order point, not a speech or a question. So, Councillor Hogg, with that preface, what is your point of order?
Well, you've just outlined the fact that the academy may go, actually, that's not a deal we want to sign up to. But then it was left thing. So essentially, in that circumstance, it would either would come back to.
I was going to make the very same point for you.
It was going to come back to cabinet to decide whether or not to vary the change in some shape or form, or to maybe reopen negotiations to see if there's another academy that wants to take the school.
Again, the legal officer will advise. It's not a point of order again, I'm being told, but we can't get out the academisation. So just to be clear where we are. So if your motion passes, it's already an academy. We would have to agree with the school, and it's likely that they wouldn't. But the point is, it will come back to us again. So we'll be back where we are, which was what the point of Councillor Howard's motion was to give the cabinet all options, including yours, Councillor Hogg, and anybody else's points that have been raised, to deal with that without having to come back to council. However, we've agreed that council will make a decision tonight, which may not be implementable. So be clear about that. Now, I think I've done all points of orders. So I've got Councillor Allen and then, well, Councillor Jones, I'll come to you in just a second, if that's all right. Well, he hasn't spoken in this debate. Technically, he was trying to push it through as a point of order, which I'll allow, but your official speech will come after Councillor Allen, if you want to speak on this. Because if this goes through, you won't get a chance to sum up from your original motion. You wouldn't anyway. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And I do hope that we've waded through the muddy fields of procedural points and can get down to the substantial conversation we should be having this evening. I prepared these notes when I was going to second Councillor Howard's proposal, but I'll use them anyway. Like many, I bemoan the fact that with changing times, the original ethos of the community school, its surrounding facilities and open spaces now need to be contained behind protected gates and fences. However, I'm a realist. I understand the contradictions we face as a society and how best we can accommodate necessary scrutiny measures. Sorry, delete that. That should be security measures, together with the freedoms we all seek to maintain. Although not shown in the notes, from the Joint Scrutiny Committee meeting on the 2nd of August, it was my suggestion at that meeting that in order to assuage residents' concerns with regard to access to the public open space, there should be a strip of land around the proposed fencing area which would have public access. This appropriately sized strip would provide access between Fox Covert Road and the public open space to the west of the site, which is coloured in blue. Oh, excuse me, I have a drink. As that option has now seemingly been accepted as a compromise by the school, as shown in para 2.33 of the report, I'm happy to support that outcome. And of course, with the proviso, as showing in 2A in the amendment, that the council should contribute no more than 50% of the cost of installing the fence, which I understand has already been accepted by both parties. This outcome addresses the important need to arrive at a sensible compromise position, satisfying residents' understandable desire to maintain uninhibited access to the valuable and well-established public open space to the north and west, and the equally understandable imperatives of the school to ensure the safeguarding requirements are paramount. I will be supporting the report on that basis. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Jones, Dennis Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The reason why, as you've already said, the reason for the substantive motion was A, not to put this council at risk of a legal challenge from the school. It was also, which would be north of £100,000 if we lose. And we've already spent well over £100,000 and we've taken 6 years to get to this point. The amendment from Councillor Hogg, if it would be acceptable to the school, we'd all want that. But the stark reality is we know that the substantive motion will be accepted by the school and they will take 77% of the land. We're now talking about 13.5% difference. That was the reason we didn't we know that we wouldn't put this matter to bed. We wouldn't put the council at risk. And that is exactly what we've asked you to vote on. Listening to everybody tonight, it appears that those words have fallen on deaf ears and you wish to vote for, as Wayne has said, is something that the school is unlikely to accept. And as Neil has said, it is now putting us at risk of a judicial review from the school. But we have to listen. Our executive decision under Section 4 is that if you as a body, if this chamber wishes to go with the amendment, which is unlikely to be accepted, then our executive decision is we will go with that decision tonight made at full council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, Councillor Ryland Ray, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. On the 2nd of August, at the joint scrutiny meeting, I made the recommendation that Cabinet refer this back to full council to get members' views, and to then pass this back to Cabinet for a decision based on the advice from the legal officer. The recommendation I made was to get the views on 2 matters: the amount of land to be leased and the amount of land, if any, that the council will be responsible for fencing. Unfortunately, tonight the options presented to us link these 2 items together. However, at no point do any of these recommendations suggest that any of the land be changed from educational. Educational means relating to the provision of education. That does not mean this land must be Ken Stimpson's. Neither does it infer that in order to be used educationally, that there must be a fence. Councillor Hogg made very clear that all of Area C will remain educational, despite only C1 being leased to this particular education provider. This means Ken Stimpson can use it, William Law could use it, the local Scouts group could use it. I speak as a former student at Ken Stimpson when I say education comes from a lot more places than just that school. I learnt as much outside of that fence as I did inside it. This proposal gives a large area of land that the school can use, which is safeguarded by a fence. This comes in addition to the playground, hard standing areas, sports hall, gym, AstroTurf, tennis courts, and other sports provisions that are already available. If the school is to refuse this offering, they will be depriving students of the use of the land, and not because of safeguarding concerns, but simply because they wanted more. I completely understand a school's and the council's responsibility to safeguard. But if the school has a leadership team that's prepared to reject the council's offering, they have come further than I realised from the community school that it once was. Regarding Councillor Hogg's amendment, I like the proposals. I like the idea of compromise. But I recall we started this debate, what feels like a very long time ago, with strong legal advice that this could put us in muddy waters, to paraphrase. All members are aware that we are not in the position where we can afford muddy waters or legal challenges. And on this basis, I empathise with the residents of Warrington, but I need to wear my city councillor hat, and I need to protect the reputation and finances of the council. This gives me the moral dilemma because I support the people of Warrington, I like the compromise, but I can't put us in that legal position. And as such, I will be abstaining from voting on the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Councillor Hemorrhage.
For 6 years, this debate has been going on. I sit on Children's and Educational Scrutiny, and we need to protect and safeguard our children. The school has come up with a compromise. It's a pretty good compromise, but what we can't do is keep carrying on this debate for many years because our children do need to have the health benefits of using play equipment and everything outside. So we have no choice but to submit to support the proposition that the school is proposing. Thank you.
Any more for any more? I don't see any more. So we're moving closer to the vote. Oh, hang on. Councillor Elsey. You have spoken already, madam.
Just very quickly, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I keep hearing that we have to protect the council from the risk of legal challenge. The reality is that this is being put up as an argument in favour of the original proposal. The reality is that we're open to legal challenge from both sides, irrespective of the decision. So it shouldn't be used as a yardstick for people to be making their decision.
Fine, thanks. I indulge you there for a moment because I know it's a very passionate subject with a lot of interest in the room, but I am as I was saying, we're moving. Oh, Councillor Harper, is it something really desperate?
No, I've been before I go. So, I'm struggling with what I feel to be sort of threats in one way. And I don't think council should be given that, should be given the fact. And quite rightly, we've been told that either side could take this to some sort of tribunal. But it has been mentioned as well that we are elected by the wards that we stand in to represent the people, not the council. We are on council and we do represent council, of course, but when it comes down to it, the council doesn't vote us in, the residents vote us in, and they have the right to vote us out too. So that you have to take that into account, that it's not always about the greater good, it's about what's right. What's right in this case is you've had a consultation. That consultation has shown clearly what the people of Warrington want. You know what the ward councillors want. You know, I can feel it in this room, what the majority of councillors want. And yet we are putting up bridges to stop us making that decision. We've now made, look, you know, thank you. We have been given the opportunity and we've taken that opportunity now too. And thank you to the administration for us to make that decision. Let's make the decision. Let's make the right decision. And then we go on. We move on from that. I think it's absolutely appalling. I think the deal has been done, which I think is disgraceful. And that's the way we're going. We're covering up a deal that's been done that shouldn't have been done. You know, because even if we make this decision, you're going to go back to the school and the school will then still have the ACE card as to whether they take it or not. Should never have been given that. Anyway, I would call that we push on and let council take that vote and then, you know, and if it does go to that vote, I call for a public vote. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
1 second. Just for clarity, I think that the use of the term threats is a little bit harsh. I don't think the legal officer has threatened anything. I think the legal officer has rightly pointed out the risks.
Sorry, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I wasn't accusing Deputy. Actually, if I was to be fair, the leader was going to cost me £100,000. So it wasn't a threat.
But I think, to be fair, he's getting his steer from the legal officer, who has pointed out the risks about legal challenge. And as most, by the way, nobody else. I'm assuming that was it. I've called time on any more questions. So a couple of remarks. It's a very challenging situation, and it does come with risk. And as I also pointed out myself earlier, we can agree this tonight, but it doesn't mean to say it will be implemented. I think what Councillor, just 1 second. Just 1 second, please. If there was some discussion with the school about the proposal on the table, I'd be happier in that if there was some acknowledgement that whatever is being proposed might be accepted, then a lot more people would feel a bit more comfortable. But I'm not, you know, I'm not going to say much more myself. I think we've had a good, thorough public debate on this, and you will vote as you will. So we know where we're at in terms of, I think the leader has said that whatever council vote tonight, they will honour and they will try and implement what councillor Hogg's motion is asking. Whether it not succeeds, as I say, I don't know. So, members. Oh yes, councillor Hogg is good. I will get to the vote in a second. Sorry, councillor Hogg, I was getting carried away. Councillor Hogg, if you'd like to sum up then, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So just a few points really.
Excuse me, sorry, councillor Hogg, sorry, I'm remiss of me. Councillor Cole, you seconded this motion. I know, do you have anything else to add? I know you spoke at the time, didn't you? No, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing happened since you spoke about. Sorry, councillor Hogg, go on.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So, you know, we're talking about the fencing. It's been mentioned about the Orton Bushfield School. I happen to be a governor of that school, and it's a fact that that's not fenced. I'm trying to work out why people feel that Warrington is a worse place than Orton, that it needs to have fencing around its fields and higher security. I'm not saying that Orton's worse than Warrington either, for that matter, but I feel that there's not a significant change in threat in Warrington than there is to Orton. I'm sorry, Daisy. I tried to keep up with your list of things that were going to go into this, as Dennis would say, 13% change. That there was a rugby pitch, a couple of smaller pitches, an athletics track. If that's the case, those things would be in that substantially larger part that we are both able to give. I do call into question the maths, because 77% of something compared to 63.5% of something is actually a 21% larger field. It is. It's called math. I might be happy to show you how that works after the meeting.
Please, no debate between.
Sorry?
No debate, please.
Sorry. Sorry. 21% larger. The existing that my is 21% is smaller than the amount that's in the original documentation. So the community use agreement, you only have to look at Stanground Academy. That has apparently a community use agreement. I'm not entirely sure how much of the community are able to access the pool and various other facilities at that. I think that they're great on paper, but when it actually comes to enforcing them, I'm not entirely sure that it actually does what it says on the can. And certainly, even if it does work, in order to access that land, people will have to pay. Councillor Ray Ryan, your speech started so well. I was almost at the point of clapping, and then it went downhill. So as has been said, the judicial review could go both ways. I've had from the Warrington Save Warrington Fields campaign, people saying, well, actually, if this goes the other way, we'll be putting forward a judicial review. So that kind of cancels itself out in my book. For me, it's about doing the right thing. It's if that was your neighbourhood, if that was the school in your neighbourhood, which way? Sorry, am I time out? Well, I leave it to you. Please vote for the amendment.
And Councillor Hillier, sorry, I was slightly confused because I was getting your name confused with Councillor Cole, but I know you'd already spoken, so we're all clear there. Right, as I say, I think we've had a good vote. Now, Councillor Harper, oh, 1 second. Just 1 second. Hetty, I believe you called for a recorded vote a moment ago.
Yes, Deputy Mayor. I might have actually said public, but I did mean recorded. Thank you.
I thought you did. We need 14 members. Oh, sorry, 12 members to stand, or we'll count your hands, whichever you like. I think that's probably fine. I will now hand over to Rachel, who will conduct the vote or manage this vote, and she will call out your name and you will say for or against. as is usual. I'm saying that just for the members of the public, so they know what we're doing. A recorded vote means it is a matter of public record, and you can see who's doing what or who said what. Rachel, in alphabetical order. Well, sorry, are you going to clarify what people are voting? Yep.
Okay, councillors, we're now voting on the amendment from councillor Hogg, and I'm going to clarify what that is. It is recommended that council approve 1, all the land designated for educational use, including the main school site, Area B, and the school playing fields, Area C, should be offered for lease to the Four Seas Academy Trust under a... Sorry?
C1.
Oh, that's not what it says on here. So, okay. C1. C1. Academy Trust under a new 125-year academy lease. 2, the council should invite the Academy Trust to consider its position and consider only fencing the area.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, this is not the amendment that's being read out.
What?
We'll seek to clarify again in just a moment. One second, folks. Here we go again.
All right, we're going again. Recommendations. Council is recommended to agree that 1, the council should grant a new 125-year academy lease to the Four Seas Academy Trust of the main school site, Area B, and all or part of the school playing fields, Area C1. The council should negotiate with the Four Seas Academy Trust to seek to agree to lease all or part of Area C1 and to the Four Seas Academy Trust if possible. 2, the council should contribute no more than 50% to the costs of installing a fence. 3, a community use agreement should be entered into to enable continued community use of the playing fields outside of school hours. And 4, authority is delegated to the Executive Director for Children's Services in consultation with the Executive Director of Corporate Resources, the Director of Law and Governance, and the Cabinet Member for Children's Services to negotiate the terms of a lease and community use agreement with the Four Seas Academy Trust to give effect to the above recommendations. I will now read your name out in order. If you can say for, against, or abstain, please. Councillor Ahmed.
Against.
Councillor Imtiaz Ali.
For.
Councillor Zamir Ali.
For.
Councillor Allen.
Regretfully against.
Councillor Antunes.
For.
Councillor Ayres.
Against.
Councillor Barkham.
No regrets. For.
Councillor Bye.
Against.
Councillor Bisbee.
For.
Councillor Blakemore Creedon.
Against.
Councillor Andrew Bond.
For.
Councillor Sandra Bond.
Definitely for.
Councillor Boyce.
For.
Councillor Cole.
Against.
Councillor Day.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
Against.
Councillor Elsey.
For.
Councillor Farid.
For.
For.
Yep.
Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
For.
Councillor Fitzgerald, Deputy Mayor.
I'm abstaining because of the risks involved.
Councillor Judy Fox,
For.
Councillor John Fox,
Definitely for.
Councillor Geraghty,
For.
Councillor Harper,
For.
Councillor Hemraj,
Against.
Councillor Hillier,
For.
Councillor Hogg,
For.
Councillor Howard,
Against.
Councillor Newman Iqbal,
For.
Councillor Jamil,
Against.
Councillor Alison Jones,
Against.
Councillor Dennis Jones,
Reluctantly against.
Councillor Khan, against. Councillor Knight,
For.
Councillor Mahmood,
Against.
Councillor McNally,
Against.
Councillor Ormston,
For.
Councillor Perkins,
Against.
Councillor Kayoum,
Against.
Councillor Rafiq,
Against.
Councillor Rangzeb,
For.
Councillor Ray,
Abstain.
Councillor Rush,
For.
Councillor Seeger,
For.
Councillor Anne Shahid,
For.
Councillor Asif Shahid,
For, please, Rachel.
Councillor Skibstead,
For.
Councillor Strangward,
For.
Councillor Warren,
Against.
and Councillor Wiggin.
For.
Right, let me just double. Okay, thank you, members. Thank you, members. The result is 29 in favour, 19 against. There were 2 abstentions. Therefore, this amendment is carried.
Members, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen in the public gallery, no doubt see you back here in May, when we will no doubt debate this again, as I outlined. But in all seriousness, thank you for coming. It is appreciated, and often these things are quite difficult, but the public interest in this is welcome and appreciated, and it's good that you're here to see the proceedings. Members, I'm not sure, we're meeting again next week. Hopefully Marco will be recovered enough to chair the meeting. So I believe it's his intention to be here. So thank you all very much for your attendance and your input tonight. That concludes tonight's meeting. I wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you.